depending on the context, right? But in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus has his disciples. He's teaching on a mountain. And the reason that he's on a mountain and he's not teaching in the streets of Jerusalem, and he's not teaching just walking through the streets of Galilee or Judea, is because the mountain would be where revolutionaries would go when they wanted to overthrow the Roman Empire. You see, the Roman Empire was ruling in Jerusalem, and all of the people of Israel were essentially being taken over by the Roman Empire. And so what you had was people that would go, well, we want to rise up against them. And you couldn't do that in the streets. It was too dangerous. So they would go to the mountainside. And so here's Jesus. He's out on the mountainside, and he's going, hey, I got a pretty dangerous message for you as well. It's a pretty revolutionary message. And there's going to be moments as you study this where you're going to have to confront the fact that it's possible that Jesus' game plan for your life is not the same thing as the American dream for your life. There's some things that are different that when you look at maybe some of the decisions you've made this year or some of the relationships you have, that you go, you know what? I think God actually wants me to do something different. And you might change your mind on some things, but that's how we grow as people. In fact, several years after Jesus, about 30 years after Jesus, a guy named Paul would start a bunch of churches all over the Roman Empire. And then he would write letters to people, and he would say, this is how you live out the message of Jesus. And in one of these letters, he writes this: don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. And so here's a question I think all of us have to wrestle through. Whose game plan am I following? I think every single one of us, no matter what your age, right, whether you're 6th grade all the way through 12th grade, even adults in the room, we go, whose game plan am I really following? Am I following my own game plan, or am I following Jesus' game plan for my life? Who's giving direction to your life? Because we're all being influenced and impacted by something, and we're all following some kind of game plan for living. And my hope is that maybe over these next few weeks as we walk through this together, you might say this: hey, after further review, I realize the game plan I've been following, it's not really working very well for me. I realized that after further review, the game plan to try to please everybody else has left me frustrated. Some of you might say this: I realize after further review, the game plan to be perfect has left me feeling exhausted. Like trying to get perfect grades and be the perfect person, that's left me exhausted. Some of you might say this: after further review, the game plan to rely on outward appearance hasn't worked out for me very well. Some of you might say, after further review, the game plan to chase popularity or athletics or academic achievement or sexual gratification, it's left me feeling empty and bitter. Upon further review, I realize whatever game plan I've been following, maybe it is not leading me to the place I actually want to go. And so as we dig into this together over the next few weeks, one big key to understanding this is right at the very beginning of Jesus' sermon. One of the things he says right off the bat is this: blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now, what does that mean? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Now, we hear the word blessed are the poor, and you think, that's awesome. I'm broke. I need some blessing in my life. Thank you, Jesus. Blessed are the poor. But we often associate the word blessed not with poor in our culture. We associate it with rich. Like if you go to a person's house and they live in a really, really big, beautiful house, you say something like, wow, what an amazing home. They don't say, oh, thanks, I'm super rich. No, they say what? Oh, thank you, I'm blessed. And so we tend to think of the word blessed as meaning like, oh, I have a lot. But Jesus says, no, blessed are those who are poor. And this word blessed really means happy or content. What Jesus is saying is this: happy or contented or satisfied. It's this quiet contentment. It's this peace that comes when you no longer chase after things. And can I tell you something? Man, if you're in 6th grade, if you're in 12th grade, if you're a sophomore, whatever grade you're in, I want nothing more for you than to experience the kind of peace and contentment that comes from Jesus, so that you stop chasing everything that this world promises you, that you rest in knowing, man, when I put my trust in Jesus and follow his game plan for my life, that it actually leads me to peace and contentment and satisfaction, so that you stop chasing all the things you think will bring you contentment, only to leave you dissatisfied and confused. So Jesus says, happy are the powerless and the helpless and the afflicted and the needy and the lacking. And yet, this is where Jesus' game plan for your life kind of begins, because Jesus says this: it's when you're poor in spirit, when you realize, I can't do this on my own. I have a need for God. And if you don't realize your need for God, then there's no point in listening to the whole rest of the sermon and the whole rest of his game plan. Happiness and contentment begin when you begin to realize how much you need God, because then you can understand his game plan for your life more clearly. Now, practically speaking, what does that mean to be poor in spirit? Let me give you 3 things, these next 3 fill-ins for you. These are 3 things that people who are poor in spirit have learned how to say, okay? And the first one is this: I can't. I can't. Like those who are poor in spirit, they just recognize, I can't. That's very humbling. All you need is a little help, right? If all we needed was a help, you could buy a $12 self-help book. Read that and you'd be great, right? And there are self-help books and there are YouTube channels for everything. It's amazing how much you can learn about things on YouTube. You can fix your own brain and become smarter. You can fix your own lack of organization. There's books and YouTube channels for that. You can fix your own car. You can build your own computer. You can remove your own appendix. No, I'm just kidding. You can't do that. But it seems like there's something on YouTube for everything, right? But here's the thing. Admitting I can't, it requires humility. And one of the themes, when you look at self-help, it's like, well, if all I needed was some self-help, then I just have to say positive things to myself, right? Like this: I am confident and I am capable. I am strong and I have what it takes. We would say things like this: my life is unfolding beautifully. I am worthy and deserving of every good thing. But you know what Jesus says is the poor in spirit actually they get to experience God's kingdom. So it looks like this: I'm not capable. I'm not strong enough. I don't have what it takes. I don't feel enough. I can't save myself. I can't redeem my mess. And when you hear that, it kind of sounds discouraging. But the truth is, I can't is just the first thing you say. And that can be difficult to hear, because the message of our culture is, no, keep appearance up at all costs. Look good. Make sure everybody knows that you look good. Put up a good front. Don't let people see your struggles. Airbrush as much as necessary. In fact, there's a story that took place a few years ago of a family that hired a professional photographer to take their family photos. And then what they got back in the mail, the photographer had airbrushed all of the photos and then kind of got carried away and airbrushed it a little more and airbrushed it a little more. And eventually, this was the family photo that they got sent back. That's a nightmare. Some of you are gonna see that family in your sleep tonight, and you're gonna wake up in like a cold sweat, man. That is a nightmare, right? But listen, you can't just airbrush and airbrush and airbrush and pretend everything's okay. All right, you can take it down. The family actually said this was worth the money we paid because we laughed so hard when they sent us the pictures. Now, this is the temptation for all of us. We want to airbrush any part of our life that doesn't look good, isn't perfect, or that might show a flaw or a weakness or a lack. So we put out this version of ourselves that isn't real, and then we feel like we've got to live up to that version of ourselves. And repeatedly, we are reminded in the scriptures that when we humble ourselves, when we recognize, I can't do it on my own, it's then that we can receive God's strength. Living a life of significance and security begins by letting go of your pride and opening up your hands and just going, God, I can't. I can't. Now, here's the second thing people learn to say. You don't stop there, right? That would be depressing. But then you get to this next thing. You say, I can't, but God, you can. I can't, God, you can. This is a recognition that God's strength and God's power and what God can do when we begin to trust him. God, I can't, but I know you can. God, the game plan that I've been running, it's not working for me. God, the game plan that I've been running, it's falling short, it's leaving me empty, but I know that you've got something better. There are a lot of examples of this, by the way, throughout the scriptures, where someone gets to the point of saying, God, I can't, but you can. And then God begins to do something in their life. Now, one example of this is a guy named Moses. Moses thought his game plan was to free the people of Israel, and he tried to do it in his own strength, and it failed miserably. So then he spends 40 years in the wilderness, and God shows up and speaks to him, and he says, okay, Moses, I've got a better game plan for your life. I want you to go back to Egypt, and I want you to free these people. And Moses' response is, God, I can't. I'm not a good speaker. I got a stuttering problem. I'm not good at speaking and stuff. And God responds, Moses, repeat after me. I am confident. I am capable. My life is unfolding beautifully. No, he doesn't do that. He doesn't give him a bunch of self-help, positive talk. Instead, what God says is this: Moses, I'll be with you. I'm gonna work through you. You can trust me. I know you can't, but I can. Can I just be honest with you? I frequently feel this way. In my life, okay, I'm 45 years old, and I still feel this all the time. I feel like I'm in over my head. Listen, I feel like I'm in over my head. Like there's no like book that's been written that tells you the perfect way to do parenting. There's no book that's been written that tells you the perfect way to handle your marriage. For you guys, there's no book that's written that tells you the perfect way to be a teenager in the 21st century. I mean, everybody's learning as they go. And so frequently, I have to say this: God, I can't, but I know you can. God, I'm in way over my head, but I know you've got something. And so I'm scared, I'm in over my head, but I'm also confident. Well, how can you be in over your head and still be confident? Because I know I can't, but God, you can. And I know you're gonna come through. And so here's what people say: God, I can't. You have to get to the place of I can't in order to recognize that God can. And then here's the third thing you say: please help me. God, I can't, but I know you can, so please help me. God, I can't, I know you can, please help me. I was reading a survey that asked people their top 10 Bible verses, and one of the top 10 Bible verses that people said was this: cleanliness is next to godliness. Has anybody ever read that Bible verse? Except it's not in the Bible. It doesn't exist. It's not a Bible verse. It's a catchy saying that some parent made up somewhere because they wanted their kid to take a bath. But it's not in the Bible. Another one is this. This is something that people say. It sounds a lot like a Bible verse. God helps those who help themselves. Has anybody ever heard that? It's not in the Bible. It's not in there. In fact, I would say a more accurate thing to say is this: God helps those who can't help themselves. God helps those who just go, God, I can't. I'm in over my head. And my way of living has not been working, so I need to follow you in your way. God helps those who are humble and contrite. God runs to the person who says, I don't have it all together, but God, I need your help. Well, let me just read one last story, and then we're going to go to our groups. In Luke chapter 18, Jesus tells this story. It says, then Jesus told this story to some who had great confidence in their own righteousness. That means they thought they were right and everybody else was wrong. And they scorned everyone else. Here's the story. He says, 2 men went to the temple to pray. One was a Pharisee and the other was a despised tax collector. And the Pharisee stood by himself and prayed this prayer: I thank you, God, that I'm not like other people. I'm not like other people, cheaters, sinners, adulterers. I'm certainly not like that tax collector. I fast twice a week and I give you 1/10 of my income. And then Jesus said this: the tax collector stood at a distance. He dared not even lift his eyes to heaven as he prayed. Instead, he beat his chest in sorrow. And he said, God, have mercy on me, I'm a sinner. And then Jesus says, I tell you, that sinner, not the Pharisee, returned home justified before God. Meaning he had right standing with God. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled. Those who humble themselves will be exalted. We actually get the word hypocrite from a Greek word that means stage actor or pretender. As long as you pretend that you don't need help, when you really do, it's like you're living like a stage actor. It's like you're wearing the mask of a pretender while the real you is hidden somewhere deep beneath the surface. And it's a miserable way to live. But Jesus is never upset with sinners. He's never upset with people who come to him and go, God, have mercy on me. God, I can't, but you can, so please help me. God always has love for that. And whenever we see Jesus opposing someone's sin, it's their sin of pride and ego, not their sin of weakness. And those he patiently heals. That's why Paul is able to say with full conviction, when I am weakest, that's when I'm strong. When I'm weak, that's when God works through me, because he's strong in my weakness. And I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. So, this year, over the next few weeks, as we go through this series together, what plays for you are under review. What plays for you are you going to go back and say, man, after further review, I could have made a different decision. After further review, I want to follow God's game plan for my life. After further review, I want to change how I handle that relationship. After further review, I realize I don't have to chase perfection. I don't have to chase popularity. I don't have to chase these things that are leaving me empty and dissatisfied. Instead, here's what you can pray. And I want to encourage you to pray this even right now, right here. God, I can't, but I know you can. So please help me. And if you're here and you're kind of like, man, that really resonates with me, then would you just agree in your heart with this prayer? Maybe you're like, I want to say, God, come into my life. I want to follow you. This is maybe my first church experience, or maybe your first youth group experience, or maybe like you're kind of exploring what this whole faith thing means. And you realize, as much as I've tried to live life on my own, I know it's left me feeling empty. And so if you're here tonight and you'd go, God, this is the prayer I want to pray, would you just agree in your heart with this prayer as we close, and then we'll go to group? God, I recognize I've chased some things. I've been following a game plan that has left me empty and dissatisfied. God, with some of my relationships, with some of my decisions, God, some choices I've made, some of the paths that I've gone down that I knew I shouldn't have gone down, but there was something pulling me that direction, and it left me dissatisfied. It left me feeling empty. And so all I can say is this, God, I pray the prayer that the tax collector prayed. God, have mercy on me. I'm a sinner. God, I know I can't, but I know you can, so please help me. And God, I pray for every single person in this room, you would help us to recognize we can't do this on our own. May we lean on you. And God, I know that you're going to hold us in your hands as we make decisions, as we navigate relationships and friendships and school and all of the things that life throws at us. God, we're thankful for you. We pray this in your name. Amen.